Do you have RSI and you want to get fit, but you're nervous about exercising because you don't want to make your RSI worse? Here's the good news. You can exercise and get a lot stronger. Exercise is one of the most important things you can do if you have repetitive strain injury. It can reduce pain and increase strength and flexibility. But standard exercise, such as group fitness classes or the things that you might see on the internet, can actually make your RSI worse. So you need to be careful about how you choose the exercises that you do and how you do them. Here are some guidelines to keep in mind. There are 3 components to exercise: strengthening, lengthening, and cardiovascular. So if you want to work on strengthening, how do you strengthen without exacerbating your carpal tunnel syndrome or your sore forearms or your epicondyles or your shoulders? How do you do that? Let me explain. What you do is you start at the proximal level. That means you start at your torso. So you strengthen the closer muscles and rest the muscles that may be injured and prone to further injury if you exacerbate them with the wrong exercise program. The proximal muscles are the muscles on the front of your body, such as your abs or abdominal muscles, and the muscles on your back, such as the erector spinae, the rhomboids, and the latissimus dorsi. So you strengthen the muscles on the core and you rest the upper extremity so you don't cause further damage. When you are starting to work out, start with no weights. Don't use bands or handheld dumbbells, any of that. Just use your own body weight in the beginning and only do up to 10 repetitions. Of course, if you are tired or you're having problems, you can do fewer than 10 as well. You need to really listen to your symptoms and see. And also, if the exercise doesn't feel right to you, wait. Come back to it at a later time. It may be the wrong thing for you. Then after you're comfortable doing 10, you can do that for a week or 2. Then you can work your way up to doing 10, taking a rest break, and then doing another set of 10. And if you feel like you've had enough, even though you haven't reached that 10, you can stop then and come back tomorrow or the next day. Eventually, you will reach your maintenance level, and that will be a process that you will go through after you've added a little bit of weight, but you need to be very careful about how you do that. And we talk about that in another episode. So to begin, I recommend starting with your core muscles on the front. So that would be your abdominal muscles. You can do dead bugs, or you can do something like just squeezing your abs in. And that's fine because a lot of people have neck problems that would be exacerbated by doing things like curls or crunches. And then after you've done lots and lots of those, you can do some bridging. You put your feet flat and then you lift up your pelvis and roll down one by one. That's another great exercise. It also helps people with back problems, and it will help you prevent back problems. Then after that, you roll onto your stomach and you do back extensions. That's sort of like the cobra in yoga, except don't push up with your hands. Just keep your hands by your side and lift up your trunk, lengthening the back of your neck. So that means you don't tilt your head back like that. You keep the back of your neck really long. That's important. And then after you've done 10 or so cobra, do backward walking. That's listed on my channel, so I'll put a link to that. But basically, it's very good for strengthening the intrinsic muscles of your back. And after you're through with that, you can try to do Superman, but a lot of people have back problems, so leave that out unless you're really sure your back is going to be okay when you do it. Then after you've done your upper extremity, do your leg muscles, strengthen the quads, the abductors, the adductors, and your hamstrings. Be sure that you do internal and external rotation as well for your hips. That's really important. And don't forget to do your squats. Why would we be so concerned with our lower extremity? Because if you have strong legs, you don't have to use your hands to help you get in and out of a chair or up and down off the floor. It's really helpful. And also, you want to think about the whole body. You don't want to just strengthen one part of it. The whole body needs to be addressed when you have a fitness program from tip to toe, including your ankles and your neck. Be sure to do exercises that strengthen the rhomboids, which hold your shoulders together, and the latissimus dorsi, which stabilize your neck, your shoulders, and your spine. When you're finished with all of that, lengthen your muscles. Be careful not to overstretch because that can be painful and it's really not good for you. So think of doing range of motion exercises or using a band to stretch your hamstrings. And there's another video on how to do that I will link to below. There's also great ones for lengthening your piriformis muscles, which can get very tight, and that also will be linked below. When in doubt, do less. It's better to do less because then you haven't pushed yourself into a deepening injury and you've still gotten a lot of benefit. When it comes to cardio, ask yourself what are the things you like to do and think about things just simple walking. It can be so beneficial. It gets the blood flowing, it makes you feel better, it oxygenates the lungs. So really consider walking as a great form of cardio. For people who like running or jogging, it might aggravate you because you're bouncing. So again, think of doing fast walking. That might be easier on you than running. But if you can run, go for it. There's also machines that you can do, such as the stationary bike or the elliptical machine or the treadmill. So think of those things as well because that might be easier for you than going for a run. If you like to swim, be sure to include some backstrokes so that you're not overusing your pectoralis muscles, which can lead to a tight brachial plexus. So be sure to open up your chest, especially after your workout, so that you get those nice open, broad shoulders. Avoid activities that are hand intensive, such as tennis, racquetball, volleyball, or anything that would put a lot of strain on your upper extremity. Also, exercises that involve handheld weights, overhead movements, or bearing weight on your hands, such as a push-up or down dog in yoga. Also be aware that you shouldn't be clapping your hands. That can be very aggravating for people with repetitive strain injury. So if you're in an aerobics class, don't clap when you're asked to do that. Don't slap your body. Just take the movement for what it is and do without that. And if the teacher says anything to you, say that you've got repetitive strain injury and it aggravates that. I also highly recommend that you don't engage the services of a personal trainer because they're trained for the apparently fit population and they're simply not trained to deal with something as complicated as repetitive strain injury. So I really wouldn't go that route. If you need some guidance, ask your physical therapist because they will have better instruction. They will know more about how to protect yourself. But even with them, if they do something that aggravates your RSI, listen to yourself first. Find another way. Tell your physical therapist that that bothers you. Is there another exercise that you can do that targets the same muscle group without aggravating your RSI? Things like wrist curls are really not a good idea for repetitive strain injury. I also highly recommend that you don't take group fitness classes at the gym. These are designed for apparently healthy populations. They do not take into account people with upper extremity problems that would prevent them from doing a lot of the movements that you might find in a group fitness class. So avoid them. They also might be going way too fast for you, so you might injure yourself transitioning from one movement to another because you're trying to keep up with the group. Don't try to keep up with anybody else when you're in your exercise program. Just work for yourself. That's the safest way to go. Lastly, when you're doing your exercise program, notice how you feel the next day. If you feel good and you feel happy, you're going in the right direction. If you're sore, that means you did too much the day before. Try to figure out what you did and reduce that or eliminate that and find another exercise that's not going to aggravate your repetitive strain injury. Now, this is very general advice that I'm giving to people, but everybody needs a little bit of personal guidance. If you want personal guidance about your exercise program from me, book a session. I'll put a link in the details below. So happy exercising. You're going to get fit and strong, and that's one of the best things you can do for yourself if you have repetitive strain injury.